What up, everybody? It's JB Finley. It's Beltway Football. Josh Harris, Mitchell Rails, Magic Johnson, Mark Ein, David Blitzer, a whole bunch of other people own the Commanders. The deal is closed. This is real. Everybody's like, oh my God, what? Dan's gone. He's gone. And it's good. It's a good thing. We're brought to you by Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. We ride with them. Want you to do the same thing. It's a good day for them. Bob Biaggi came here just to hang out. Was in the parking lot. Yeah. He called in the radio show. He was our official parking lot insider. And he may have been lying. I don't know, but it worked for us. Pete's in Cape Cod. Me and the big man are here at FedEx. Vibes are extremely high. It's done. And listen, man, eventually we'll get to Mary Jo and all the investigations and etc. Today, though, is a celebratory day. It's done. The team is sold.
Today was as exciting a day here at FedEx as
it's the most fun day since at least
RG3's
rookie year. And maybe ever.
You have the juxtaposition of yesterday, the fans chanting "F you, Dan." Today they chanted "Thank you, Josh." And it just as we're sitting out at the Legends Plaza, as Josh Harris and Magic Johnson and Mitchell Rails are addressing the fans, and the fans are chanting at him. It just reminded me I was standing right down here as RG3 against the Vikings turned it up for 70.
Electrifying.
RG3, yeah. It just the enthusiasm was out of this world today,
dude. When I was behind Magic and he walked out, Fred Smoot and Logan Paulson did a hell of a job working the crowd. Those two should host bar mitzvahs. They were great. But when I made a point of walking behind Magic as he walked out to the crowd, and he just got mobbed. And he's also 6'9", so everybody sees him. And I'm holding my phone, kind of taping it, and you can see that at JP Finley NBCS. I guess I need to change that. But anyway, and I'm holding up my phone, and then I realized below Magic is Harris, and Rails is kind of a big dude, but Harris and Blitzer are shorter guys. Especially,
and Mark Ein too.
Especially compared to freaking Magic Johnson. And I'm holding my phone, and it's just an absolute mob scene. And who sneaks behind me? Ron Rivera. And he kind of leans over and says to me, he's like, I figured if I walked in after Magic, nobody would bother with me. And it was just so funny. I mean, think about this universe has revolved around Ron for 3 years. And then Jason got in the mix. But Dan was one, a recluse, and two, hated. This is a different vibe, man. This is a different vibe entirely.
And the way that those guys addressed, they talked to the media and did a formal press conference. And, we can do a rate the press conference thing, in a little bit. But they then went out. Yeah, they then went out and addressed the fans out on the plaza, and just the enthusiasm with which those guys went after it with the fans was incredible. Have you heard this morning? All the new owners addressed all the employees of the team, and Magic came out and did one of those things like when we were in camp growing up. He came out and he's like, "Give me 2 claps," and got the entire crowd going. And he did this some with the media press conference, but he goes, I don't invest for my ego. I invest to win. I won in high school. I won in college. I have 5 championships. Every team I've owned has won. He's like, and we're going to win here. And some of those employees talking to, they're like, if you're not ready to run through a damn brick wall for these guys, I don't know what is. Just the difference between the way that these guys are addressing this employee group and the fans and the media is just so starkly different than the previous regime.
Magic saying, I don't invest for ego. I invest
to win.
To win is just so cool, so gangster. I think throughout this process, Harris has handled balancing, I grew up here. I'm a fan of this team, but it requires more than fandom because we got to win. And this is about championships. I thought Rails, I had heard he's a relatively quiet guy. Maybe there's private and then quiet. He doesn't seem quiet. He seemed funny and charismatic. Maybe he likes to be private, but I was impressed. The whole dude, Pete, I'm sorry, we're just rambling, but there's just this energy. Totally. But
Jinx.
How many, dude, I want to credit Heather McDonough with this tweet. And this was yesterday, let alone today. But she tweeted out 7/20/23 greater than 2/2/22. Think about the amount of time and effort and what enthusiasm they put into 2/2/22. And then think about the product that came out the other end. Then think about the time they had to pull this off today and how freaking awesome it was. There was no hiccup.
It was all
there was no hiccup. There was no mistake. No, dude, it's day one of a new regime, and the old regime was terrible. So you're going to give them the full benefit, all the optimism, right? It felt entirely different. It felt like the big leagues, and it made you realize that things under Dan worked.
The one little moment that I thought was so damn cool was you talked about kind of the demeanor of Josh Harris and Mitchell Wales. We got done with the media presser, and they told Josh, last question, you're done. And he was like, all right, guys, like, let's go. And then he kind of walked just off the podium and he was like, let's go. Like, yeah. And you just kind of like saw that excitement and like the fervor with which he was ready to kind of attack things. I loved it. It was so damn cool.
What was it like? I mean, I know you were watching your phone and like all the clips and everything. Like, speak for the people that weren't here but got to kind of experience it tangentially.
It's FOMO and FedEx Field are two things that don't mix. It's normally best to be far away from that stadium. It's the authenticity of these owners. You can feel it. The energy of the fans is great. I'm really in awe. And I thought I knew this fan base still existed to a certain extent, but I thought a lot of it was dead. It wasn't dead. It was just in like a little bit of an unconscious state, and it's woken up instantly. From the bullpen on Thursday to the stadium today to the excitement on social media. It's just outlandish how people are responding to this. And yeah, Mitch, when Josh did that let's go at the end of the presser, that was, I think, the coolest moment, like a real human moment from a guy who is like a $6 billionaire who could be just very corporate in his suit, but he let that little let's go come out and just show that he's like ready to really buy into this thing. He bought into it literally with money that we could never dream of, but now I think it really is. And he's like, yeah, I know I own the Sixers, I know I own the Devils, but like, we're carving out time for this. This is important to me. I grew up here. Everybody has connections to the city. We know what it means. We're getting this thing right. And I believe them. It's all of the Kool-Aid, all of the Ashburn syndrome, but like, allow yourself to be infected by it today, because I believe these people.
Totally. So I have on my notes here, my very, very steel trap-like notes, to give Pete shit because he's not here. And to be fair, we gave Mitch a ton of shit because he wasn't at the draft. So it's only fair to give Pete shit for not being here because he's on vacation. But I know how emo you get, and I know how FOMO you get. So instead of giving you shit, I'm just going to tell you that not only are you sad for not experiencing a fun day at FedEx Field and meeting the owners and everything else, but the big man, no lie, just spotted a cat walking up the whole touchdown end zone of the tunnel where the Commanders come out. It was a cat walked up the whole way. So not only do you love cats, you love cat in stadium content. And big man, I'll keep going, but I think this is a sufficient flogging for Peter.
I'm willing to let Peter go for this.
Flog. It's an equal opportunity flogging podcast. All right.
I will admit it's a bit of a debacle. I'm sitting in Massachusetts when Dan Snyder sold the team to a new ownership group, but you guys are there. You're doing a great job. And I'm just really happy for everybody.
Can we pause for a second and talk about Magic Johnson in burgundy and gold? Like
Magic Johnson,
he was in
Terry McLaurin, Magic and Terry dapping each other up. It's like you're rubbing your eyes. Like, what am I seeing?
John Allen. I mean, it's just the whole thing. It was just so surreal, almost. I mean, it's hard to believe.
Like all of it, Dan's selling is hard to believe.
Right.
A group that's competent and professional buying it is hard to believe. But Magic freaking Johnson, when he got up there and talked, I was like, and then he just drops bangers. I don't do this for ego. I'm here to win. The goal is to win championships. Obviously, what it means to him as a black man and what it means. I talked to B about that, not on camera or radio. We just talked about it. And it's so impressive. And the group they've assembled is so impressive. Talking to Mark Ein, who's a guy we know a little from the Washington Castles days. The whole thing, man, is, let's be crystal clear, because we're all, I haven't gotten drunk yet, and that's coming. I promise you, world, that's coming. But I've been flying, and the Minnesota airport can go all the way to hell. But the thing we have to admit, we're all flying high on vibes here, right? Like the vibes of Dan leaving combined with Magic Johnson and an awesome day at FedEx Field, and all of these factors have everybody flying high. But let's be real. We have no idea what this group's going to do, right? We have no idea if Sam Howell's going to be a good quarterback, if they're going to win 8 games this year. Every question we had last week, we have this week, except I asked Terry and I asked John, you guys won't have to answer any of these questions that have nothing to do with you anymore. You guys won't have to see the headlines on Twitter about the owner under investigation. And these guys seem like they're going to invest money. Somebody with the team is like, yeah, we're already spending money all over the place.
How about you can
like it's going to be different.
And we don't know what the football team is going to be, like what JP said, but both Terry and John talked about the weight off their shoulders of having stability at the ownership level.
Those two as like leaders of the team.
Right. Terry's like, oh, I've only been here for 5 years, so I don't really know. Hey, Terry, like you've been here for some of the worst of it. But when it comes to the actual owners, they talk about like what the first steps are going to be. There's lots of questions about the name and stadium, where it's going to be and all that stuff. Josh Harris sat there and talked about wanting to improve the fan experience and talked about very specific things that he wanted to do. The egress and ingress, getting in and out of the stadium, kind of cleaning up the, some of the difficulties and the frustrations that fans have coming in. I don't expect them to do a whole lot with the football side right away, but I think they're going to work and do what they can to make this fan experience here at FedEx better immediately. And I think that's where you're going to see a big change. Owners that care to make it better, as opposed to somebody who just sits back and lets the stadium dilapidate itself into oblivion.
I think the bullseye's on week one. I think the target is let's have this place rocking for week one. Maybe it's that preseason opener, which is
this place is an
21 to 11
sellout.
is what, 22 days? I mean, that's 3 weeks out. I don't know that you're going to pull that off. Jason may have been trying to sell tickets or not, but he's like, hey, week one's almost sold out already. Better get those tickets. I mean, I had like 10 people come up to me in Legends Plaza and say, yo, I just bought tickets. If you want tickets, you should probably buy them. I think that the NFL did him a solid playing the Cardinals. I think it'll be awesome in here.
All offseason leading up to the sale, I was talking about week one needing to be at home and needing to be a sellout. And I think, just the number of my friends and people that I know personally who have told me that they're getting back in, or they're buying tickets, or they're going and buying merch, or whatever it is, just in the last 24 hours has been astronomical. I can only imagine the sleeping giant of this fan base that's been awoken.
Yeah, and you see Josh Harris on the stage today, shaking people's hands, signing autographs. You now all probably know the legendary story of him buying beers for people at the bullpen. Like, these are easy wins, yes, and he's having people who are helping him pull these off, but no one ever took the easy wins before him. Dan, Bruce, Vinny, all those people, they spat in the face of fans. They used them as pawns. They couldn't have cared less about him as long as they came, spent their money, bought expensive beers, and left. Whether they were happy or miserable, it didn't matter. And Josh, within the first 36 hours of owning this thing, has already done more for people and shown like a real attempt to connect with them. And it's just so cool. And Magic is an ambassador. Like we had this talk a couple months ago, JP, why people love Magic so much. I understand it now. He's just oozing with charisma. He's awesome. He's a bot. Like and Mitchell Rales cracked me up. He was self-deprecating, like just stewards of an organization who are going to guide this thing the proper way, who are going to be professional, communicate, sit down, and just make sure this is humming properly. It's the most refreshing thing ever. Love it.
Well, I think Rails too. That dude is a multi-billionaire. His company, Danaher, is like one of the most respected companies in the world. A guy, Pete, you definitely know. You might have met my boy Deej. Danny Gladding is like a business expert. I don't know what the hell Danny does, but I consider him a business expert. And I called him when Rails was connected, and Danny's like, dude, that guy's like one of the most revered investors and operators in the world. Like, Mitchell Rails is such a big deal. And I don't think he does hyperbole. And when he started talking, one, his story about trying to play college football and getting run over was awesome. But two, he said he was humbled by this opportunity. This is the kind of guy that can like probably join Augusta or buy an island. You know what I mean? And he's humbled by this opportunity. And I think it's real. I think it's very, very real. And I think all these guys, whether they are the upfront or the back of the room type, like, I think they mean it. And the Magic story, and this all adds up.
Right, the Magic story.
With Jack and Cook was incredible. I didn't think about that, but even if you read the book or watch the show that HBO made, Jack and Cook sold the team to Dr. Jerry Buck so he could buy the Redskins. And Magic was at the centerpiece of that deal. Like, how ridiculous is that?
That's crazy. And listen, when Dan Snyder came in, he talked about growing up loving this team and RFK and kind of reminiscing, much like Mitchell Rales and Josh Harris.
Right.
But those guys have the goods to back it up on the business side. And I think that's where you see the difference between Dan Snyder in 1999 and these guys today. Everyone who grew up in this area loved this franchise, has those memories, those core memories of RFK and the seats bouncing and, winning football games and F Dallas or we want Dallas and all these different things. The difference to me is the business acumen behind the guys, because even when you get kind of low, like beyond the two named guys, you got a BlackRock investor in there. You have Mark Ein, who's been, investing all around DC for the past 20, 30 years. These guys have built businesses from the ground up and aren't just money, aren't just guys who are walking in and can drop dimes. They know how to build a business. They know what to do. And I think that's the big difference between the fan enthusiasm of a guy like Dan Snyder when he comes in and these guys now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think one thing that stood out to me was Harris. He's got a lot going on, and he pointed out that all these other dudes have a lot going on. They have big businesses and investment firms and stuff that three yokels like us can never even imagine. But he's like, we're going to put the time in. I loved the honesty. And he's like, yeah, this kind of came up at a bad time for me, but this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And that's how we put this consortium together to buy this thing. And that rang very real to me. Just to kind of admit it all. I found it genuine. And when we had Daryl Green on the radio today, and Daryl Green, man, made it pretty clear how unhappy he was with Dan, right? I mean, over the years, he didn't like wait till Dan left and then talk about it. Like, he was pretty clear. He didn't come to much. And Daryl said that Josh Harris called him yesterday, personally, just called him to talk to him. And that Daryl came to the event today. And on the radio with us, Daryl said, there's a genuineness with these people. They're still business people, but they're here to win. And dude, I think we're all ready for that. Like, it's still a business. They're not going to give away the beers, right? But run your business in a way that will result in a winning franchise, and people will pay.
Well, I think you can look at just, Daryl Green talked about being reached out to. I think Matthew McConaughey was on TV the other day saying that he had reached out to the ownership group and they had discussed it. Look at the number of alumni that were here today. I mean, they had an alumni meeting with the new ownership group, and just talking to some of those guys, they were excited about it. They were excited about what they heard, not necessarily because they were, rah-rahing all over the place, because they recognized that these guys were talking to them as men, as businessmen, as leaders, and they felt that they were finally in good hands with this organization. And we know how the many difficulties this alumni have had with the ownership group, and it's just today was a wonderful first step. And I think there's reason for all the excitement in the world. Let's hope it all pans out.
Yeah, and I thought like a big group like this would maybe feel a little weird or too convoluted. I loved how all of their opening remarks were very quick. No one was trying to hog the mic for 20 minutes and explain how great they are and how wealthy they are and how they're going to be heroes. It was organized. They got in, they got out. They said the right things. And it just feels like they're here to come in and just F shit up, clean it all up. They got all sets of eyeballs everywhere. They have all kinds of expertises. They have Magic to do all the community stuff. They have Josh, who's owned other teams. They got Mitchell Rails, who's got money falling out of his earlobes. I mean, they're ready. They just have such great variety, and I actually like the ownership group. But for you guys is
there a plural of expertise? Isn't it just expertise?
I don't know. We're going to move on. I've been flogged enough.
Two things. You have not been flogged at all, for the record. We flogged the hell out of the big
That was the lightest flogging ever.
Yeah. We just know you can't handle it, even though you deserve it. I think a few things I wanted to point out. I have been very clear in my level of excitement about the professionalism and the competency in pro sports that this group is going to bring. I do want to say that does not imply that everybody who's ever worked for the Commanders, the Redskins, the football team is incompetent or not professional. However, they were bogged down by a boss who was. So I want to point that out. I don't want to name specific names, but people know that I want people to know that there are lots of good people that have worked here and have left and worked here work here currently that are good. They've just been handcuffed. When's the last time there was free stuff here? We talked about this yet? You talked about the beer, right?
Sewage water. Free sewage water
Harris
that
called-
rained down on people.
That's true. The sewage water and the railing falling over was free.
That was
They
free,
were
yeah.
giving away drinks and snacks at the Legends Plaza.
Wow.
They were giving that away.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
That it would have been a $7 Diet Coke or whatever, Pepsi.
And it
You
would have
know?
been flat and it would have, sucked. It would have been warm. It just feels like they already know. They just know how to do things properly. And it's so
Dude, the whole operation went off without a hitch.
smooth.
What is the last time we can say that?
It's
Seriously.
yeah. It's the little things, like names were spelled correctly, microphones worked. Everyone was where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. Everything worked, and it was smooth, and it was great to see. I mean, right? The press. Did you watch the presser, Pete?
Yeah, and like they had multiple cameras. They were cutting from the stage to the crowd. I was like, wait a second, this is a real production. It's not cutting out. There's no audio glitches that make your ears bleed. Like, it was really cool. So yeah, the press conference, it makes Mark Sanchez look like the most unprofessional speaker ever. It's 100
Dude,
Mark Sanchez's.
It shows that it was the fucking minor leagues, and now it's
Yeah.
the big league.
Yeah, they feel like they're part of the NFL again. And they're still, you're right, Sam Howell, a ton to be fixed all over the place. But like, just do the stuff you can control well, and they're doing that.
Look at the glasses we're drinking out of in the press box.
Well, hold on. That's a melted Diet Pepsi.
I just mean it's
It's
the
gold rimmed.
rimmed goblets.
Dude, so I was here early. How about
Yeah, I want to ask you.
talking about stuff? I was inside. I didn't have to go to the fucking parking lot to do the radio show.
I want to ask you guys, what was your day like? What's the scene? When did you get there? Where's that press conference? I couldn't tell what part of the state. And just give a TikTok of the day.
I'll give a TikTok the last 48 hours for me.
Yes, please. Yeah, you were
So
different state.
Wednesday night, I think. Wednesday night, I flew to Minnesota. Did the radio from the owners' meetings, but like this, we've been to a lot of these owners' meetings, and they're big affairs. This was not. This was only. There's only one item on the agenda, and it was getting rid of Dan, and there was no pomp and circumstance, and there was like they were very cool to people at the NFL. I appreciate them. They're like, yeah, man, you can do the radio, but you can just good luck finding a spot. And I was just like in the lobby, like all these people were walking by, looking at me, and I'm like kind of a loud guy trying to speak quietly, and B Mitch is giving me shit about not bringing the energy. So I'm just there. And then we go upstairs and we're just stalking and waiting. We were live as it was all unfolding on Channel 4, which was pretty fun / wild. And then
You gave our guy Ben Standig a nice
Standig,
got a little on TV,
Yeah.
a little TV time for Standig.
and then we're there for the boat, got to meet Harris, got to talk to Goodell, a lot of moving parts. Flew home last night, slept on the couch, got home about 12:30-ish.
For once, not because he did something.
I know. I was like, dude, I'll just sleep on the couch because I had to be up at 6. I was on the morning show on Channel 4. Never done that. That's a vibe right there.
You were live on the morning show.
Live at 6:30, baby.
Via
Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, from the porch.
Yeah.
Came out here 9:45, did the show here. People walking around, buzzing around. What the presser was upstairs on the club level
Let me jump in.
like the old Hooters, right?
Yeah.
If
I
that's
can
not
hear
a signal of the new culture, I don't know what is.
It might have been the old cigar bar. It was one of those things up there.
I got in around noon, and the parking lots were pretty packed. I mean, I decided not to get off at Landover Road because the backup to get into the stadium was back onto 495. So I went up to Central Ave and came around kind of the backside. Parking lots were pretty full. As I walked up, there was a line of fans going a quarter, half, 3/4, I don't know, around the stadium waiting to get in. I mean, there were a lot of people there, and every damn one was in a Commanders, Redskins football team jersey. And we were hung out in the press box and went up to the presser, and the presser ended. We got a little bit of time with Joe Gibbs. They took a lot of pictures. After when we're done here, you'll hear from.
It was like all family too,
Right?
Like all these guys had their family there. It just kind of stood out to me.
What about Mama Commander? What was her situation like?
Did you hear Mama Commander on the stream?
I just saw JP's tweet of her standing up and looking like a total
so
queen.
Josh Harris was like, yo, none of this could be possible without my mom. I believe it was Sylvia Harris, say hello to everybody. And she stood up and kind of waved like the dignitary wave. And she was like, I'm Mrs. Harris, but you could call me Mama Commander. And then behind the curtain, as it was kind of chaos afterwards, and I was like, can I speak to Mama Commander? And was firmly told no.
So they had the presser, and then very organized. They moved Terry McLaurin and John Allen were there. They came down. Those guys went out and met the fans out on the Legends Plaza. And then shortly after that, the ownership group came through and they went out there and addressed the fans. And you could see how fired up everybody was. I mean, JP talked about them mobbing Josh and Mitchell before Magic even showed up there. But once Magic walked out, man, that place went bananas.
And I also just like that there's all this, I just like that the optimism is like there's no real mention of Dan. Like it's already people are moving forward. It's great. Just bury him. We don't care about him.
Everyone can do is let this be the final Dan discussions that we have. Like let him be the guy who must not be named because it's a new day.
His name Dusseldorf left.
We just lost Pete.
Well, Pete, we really appreciate the effort. Oh, he's back.
Is it?
And you know what? I bet this would have gone better if you were here.
Yeah, it probably would. I would imagine our connection would be better if I was sitting next to you instead of on the internet, but that's okay.
Pete would definitely be talking about Rumpeldorf.
Who is it? What's the guy's name?
Voldemort, not Disseldorf or Rumpelborf.
Nerd alert. We're going to do Terry and Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was hearing from Terry McLaurin and Joe Gibson.
Sounds like the greatest.
Real quick, we got, 6 minutes? We need to get drunk. I don't know when we're going to put this together. I don't know, frankly, if we can have – I don't know if the old PPs still exist. So I'm just going to go to a bar. We're all going to go there, and we're going to talk about it, and anybody that wants to meet me there could go there.
I'm just going to happen to be at the same bar at the same time, drinking stuff, talking about the same
We only have a few minutes left in this. I need to ask JP this because it's an important question.
Uh-oh.
Josh Harris quite literally bought everyone a beer.
I'm off the hook. I don't have to.
Oh, okay.
That was for me. I saw your tweet. It had me laughing in like the Minnesota airport. You know what I got last night? I didn't have enough time, but I was getting a drink. I'll show you guys. I took a picture of it. It was beautiful. This is in Minnesota at the airport bar.
Over in Bethesda, we went through a fair amount of bourbon last night.
Guess what I got at the bar last night that I drank incredibly fast?
Margarita.
Transfusion.
Hey, tequila. Closer. Look at that. Isn't she a beauty?
Oh, martini.
I got a dirty martini because I'm classy, Pete.
Beautiful.
An airport teeny. But yeah, there's something coming because I didn't get to go to the bullpen. Pete's in goddamn Massachusetts.
Am I? Have we made that clear enough yet?
Yeah, you should be here. I don't know if we've made that clear either.
I'm just glad Pete's Wi-Fi is working.
It's a Festivus, and the vibes are high everywhere.
Everywhere, vibes are high.
Even in Dennis, up and down the East Coast.